Welcome to the Cannabis Enlightened podcast with Dr. Leroy, brought to you by March and Ash at marchandash.com. I'm Chris Cantori, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to your host, Dr. Leroy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Cannabis Enlightened. Cannabis Enlightened, where knowledge is power. I am extremely happy to have our guest that we're able to listen to today, because he is a very knowledgeable young man in the area of cannabis by way of education. And I want to mention the fact that he's an African American, and he didn't just wake up in the morning and say, I think I want to be in cannabis. He actually, went to college and studied from a biological standpoint what is going on in those kind of plants, these kind of plants, so that he brings a different perspective to the knowledge that I'm trying to provide the listeners. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Jeremy to introduce himself to all of you and to let you know what he does with the company that he's with. Jeremy?
Hello, Dr. Leroy. Thank you. So hello, my name is Jeremy Hicklin. I have managed and worked in the cannabis industry for over 8 years. I have established quality assurance programs for federally regulated laboratories, as well as laboratories in the cannabis space. I also have extensive experience in opening major retail locations for major brands like MedMen. I'm passionate about the therapeutic and medicinal benefits that cannabis has to offer, as well as being an advocate for cannabis use to combat against the current opioid crisis that we're facing. I have firsthand experience with the war on drugs, specifically cannabis prohibition's effects on lower socioeconomic communities. My goal is to educate the public on those therapeutic and medicinal benefits of cannabis, as well as to promote the access to safe cannabis products.
Fantastic, Jeremy. There are some things that you said that I either didn't know or didn't remember from the first time that we met. I am impressed, as I'm sure that the listening audience is too. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do now and the lab that you're working in?
So currently I'm the laboratory director for a testing facility located in Long Beach. We test cannabis products for compliance and for quality assurance. And we're involved in research, partnering with different labs and different organizations in the cannabis space as well.
So you're testing, you test the cannabis as it comes into your laboratory?
Correct. So we're testing, flowers, edibles, topical products like lotions and balms, anything you could think of.
All right. Do you test, because this is interesting now, do you test the cannabis flower itself, or you're testing the actual products?
We test both the flower and the products.
Okay. So when you test the flower, you're testing for pesticides and contaminants, that kind of thing?
Correct. So for compliance testing, we have purity tests and then we have safety tests. So the safety tests are heavy metals, pesticides, residual solvents. Those are more like concentrated products, manufactured products. We also test for microbial impurities such as Salmonella or E. coli.
Okay. And just to make sure everybody understands, you don't want those things in your body.
I'll say not at high levels.
So without that testing, I mean, even if there weren't the regulations, you're testing to make sure that no foreign agent, nothing poisonous can get into an individual or is put on an individual, right?
Yeah, correct. For example, with our heavy metals testing, which we're testing for arsenic, cadmium, lead, which we all know is not good for us, and mercury, which we know is not good for our bodies. And so the thing about the cannabis plant is very good at absorbing those metals out of the soil because they naturally exist in soil. And so the cannabis plant is going to absorb all of those metals. And doing our testing, we just want to make sure that it's not at a level that's deemed harmful for consumption,
Right.
whether that's inhalation or applied topically.
Right, right. Now, is it safe for me to say that without the testing that labs like you do, and specifically your lab, people are liable to get a hold of the product and it's going to be extremely harmful to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's very likely. I'm always, like I said, I'm here to promote access to safe products, and the only way you're going to do that is by going to a legal dispensary,
right?
And that they're getting their products tested by a trusted laboratory. I've definitely gone to these trap shops, as they refer to them, or secret sessions. These have become popular over the last few years, where you can just go to a warehouse or something and just, it's a kind of farmer's market type style where you can purchase your cannabis. Now, I've picked up some samples from these types of places and have brought them to the lab and tested them. And unfortunately, I've seen failures for pesticides, heavy metals, up to 5 times over the limit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
gosh.
It's definitely a problem.
So because the person is going to say, well, I didn't have much money, so I bought some illegal cannabis, and that's good enough for me. That's not necessarily a good decision.
No, I mean, myself, I'm someone that I value my health, above all. So, and I understand the predicament, because this whole issue of THC elevation and the consumers are being kind of misinformed. So that's a whole nother topic. The consumers are led to believe in sold products, stating that the THC level is the end all be all in determining the quality of the cannabis flower, where there's much more aspects to look at that in deciding which flower you're going to choose. Now, specifically with the consumer not being able to afford to go to dispensary, that's the main complaint I hear.
Yeah.
Based on those higher THC tiers, it's a higher price point. So necessarily that higher THC doesn't equate to a higher price point. And that's the market that we're in now. And so the consumers are ultimately being cheated out by these laboratories that are elevating THCs and, the whole type of pay-per-play type system. So my lab, we're looking to kind of disrupt this THC cheating market. We pride ourselves on integrity and quality service, and we want to give the consumer, the accurate results of what they're actually consuming.
Absolutely. I noticed, I went on your website yesterday or last night, I think it was, and I saw a huge list, a long list of different contaminants that you test for. And my gosh, it almost went to the next page. There's just a lot that goes into your work. And it was impressive to me. But I got scared too, because I'm thinking, gee, people that would buy some cannabis from one of the shops you're talking about, they're really playing maybe some Russian roulette, or, taking their life into their hands. Just, I mean, because they can get it for maybe $5, $10, $15 cheaper. This actually could harm them tremendously.
Right. Yeah, that's correct. And it's really an unfortunate situation for the consumer currently, but that's why we're looking to get this information out and kind of change the way that cannabis is being classified. I mean, recently they had it was in the LA Times about like a fair where where they judge wine.
Yes.
They're having wine contests judging wine.
Right.
And the issue is, cannabis, take away the therapeutic and medicinal benefits, put that to the side for a minute. Just looking at the quality, it shouldn't be determined just on the THC level. It's like wine isn't deemed a great wine because it has the most alcohol content.
Right.
So,
there are many other factors you're talking about.
Yeah, the note, the aroma, the texture, all of those things. And cannabis, there's things that go into the quality of cannabis flowers as well that need to be promoted.
Yeah, I can see where this is. It's a very important job, and it must take a lot of testing to be able to deem a plant or a lot of plant. I mean, I don't know how would you, when you test them, you don't test do you test all the plants that are brought to you that a manufacturer is going to use?
So how that will work, what I'm describing is compliance testing. So at a manufacturer, say if they have 1,000 prepackaged eighth units that they're looking to sell, we will send our field technician to go out to that location, and he's going to collect a small percentage of that 1,000. And so it's defined in the regulations, that percentage, and how the sampling is done. So we would take, say about, this is a guess, but say about eight of those eights out of the 1,000, we would take back to our facility, combine those, and then we'll perform our testing that way.
Now, is this something that is done on a regular basis where you send people out, or?
Yes, for the compliance testing, it's required that we perform the actual sampling of the product. So we're actually getting a true representation of the batch, because if it's the manufacturer distributor, they can pick out which are the more potent buds,
right,
or give us this product which is not really representative, cherry picking essentially what they would want tested.
Sure. So you also mentioned a few minutes ago that the THC, many people, and I try to educate folks all the time that cannabis is a lot more than THC, but it seems like people are always still looking for, the highest level of THC they can get, because they feel like that will give them that high that they're looking for. But it really depends upon how they're feeling in terms of how the THC will affect their bodies. Is that correct?
Right. But mainly it comes down, if I were to sell you a product, I would ask, hey, Dr. Leroy, what type of feeling are you looking of getting? Are you looking for something to have you a bit more livelier, energetic, social? Or are you looking for something for more pain management or to help you sleep better? And I think those are some of the questions that needed to be started with, and with these bud tenders, and helping the customers decide on the right product for them. I mean, at this point, a lot of the education is in the bud tenders' hands, because these people going into the dispensaries, they're looking at the bud tender as the expert there. And so when they say, hey, I want the best flower, and then the bud tender, doesn't go through those series of questions, they just point to, what they like personally, or whatever has the highest THC, or whatever is the most popular strain at the time. That may not always, be exactly what that consumer is looking for.
Sure.
So the terpene profile, that's definitely a big part of determining the effects.
Now, how did the terpenes, I'm glad you mentioned that. How did the terpenes mix into how potent a particular product is, a cannabis product is?
Right. So terpenes exist in fruits, vegetables. They're in everything from household cleansers, different things like that. So the example I like to give is you're familiar with like potpourri.
Sure.
Often they have
Right.
like lavender scented
Right.
potpourri.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And when you think of that smell of lavender, what feelings do you associate with that?
Kind of calmness,
Right.
peaceful. Yeah.
Right. So it's it's a real calming, real soothing type of, that's what the aroma of that lavender, that's the effects it gives you.
Uh-huh.
And now the common terpene that's found in lavender is called linalool. And linalool is also the major terpene that's found in a strain called Granddaddy Purple.
Ah.
And so, that smell that you associate with the lavender, if you're somebody that enjoys that, you could best believe that this Granddaddy Purple or some other strains that contain a dominant linalool profile would have those similar effects.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. And what we're doing with this episode is we are, in fact, educating people so that maybe they not necessarily know as much as the bud tenders, but when they walk in a cannabis store, they know, they can tell what's real and what's not real.
Maybe know what questions to ask.
Yes, exactly. So now let's talk a little bit about the products that are brought in. This is news to me. I was under the impression that you just tested the flower, but you test the edibles, and do you test the drinks that are produced too?
Yeah, that's correct. So
Wow.
yeah, tinctures, beverages. We deal with a lot of beverages as well. I know currently like microdosing is a huge thing with the CBD and the THC market. So we're seeing a lot of beverages with smaller dosage. Edibles, top bath salts, bath bombs, body scrubs,
Everything.
and not only just not only just the products itself, but if you've seen people roll joints with like rose petals, and people may use like hemp wraps and different
Right.
things. But we also test those products as well in order to determine the cause of contamination.
So you test the paper too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with pre-roll products, we're required to analyze the sample with the paper as well, because that's where the contamination for heavy metals typically will come from the paper more so than the actual product.
Oh man. Now, when you test the products that are brought in, do you test them to make sure that they have the amount of CBD or THC that they're going to put on the package, or do you test it for its purity?
So we're testing basically for both. So
okay.
It's two ways that it works. So if a company is getting R&D testing done on their product, meaning that they're getting their formulations right, and this is something that we don't send the results to the state. It's not a official certificate of analysis. They can label their product before or after we perform the compliance testing. Now, if they label their product before we test it, it has to fall within a certain percentage which is 12% label claims. And so it has to fall within 12% of what's labeled on the product in order for it to be deemed a pass. Or if we're testing, if nothing's labeled, we test the product, we get the numbers of the concentration of cannabinoids. That is presented on a certificate of analysis, and then they label their product based on that.
So I'm assuming that if a product comes in your lab and it's already labeled, that they already say it has this much THC and this much CBD, they must have some type of laboratory at that manufacturing.
They some of them do. Some of them may have an HPLC is what we use to run cannabinoids. So it's somewhat common for some of these manufacturers to invest in that instrument on their own to see, but they have to go to an outside source in order for the testing, because we perform validations and different certifications and accreditations that we had to have in running these tests that they're not responsible for. So the quality controls and things like that, their results there are going to differ, to an extreme based on the experience of who's operating that instrument.
And you're certified, your laboratory is certified by the state of California.
Correct. We're licensed by the state of California, and we're also ISO accredited as well. So that's an additional source that all laboratories, manufacturing companies have to go through.
So now ISO, it sounds like is that an organization that reviews labs or scientists?
Yes, exactly. Both both on the testing side and on the manufacturing side. There's different areas for ISO accreditations.
Okay. Now, where do they come up with their numbers? I mean, I understand. I think we could all understand. You don't want pesticides. You don't want heavy metals. You don't want contaminants on the flower.
Right.
But where does the state come up with the amount? I mean, the percentage. I think you mentioned 12% a few minutes ago. Where does that come from?
So a lot of those variances, like the 12%, are based on procedures and percentages of errors expected during normal testing. And that's set by ISO. And then in terms of the actual limits for, say, pesticides or residual solvents, what was done long ago in, say the pharmacy industry or the food and drug industry before the cannabis, they were performing clinical trials in order to see, the effects of these pesticides and things that harm at certain levels. And so once they perform those clinical trials, then that's where they set the regulations for, these other industries. And then us being the cannabis industry, we're kind of, picking and choosing from these other industries to build our regulations.
So, Jeremy, what has been the growth? I mean, you mentioned earlier how long you've been with a Labplex.
Yeah.
So what has been the growth in terms of testing from the time you started to right now?
So from my time in testing, I would say there's a bit more cooperation or willing to cooperate in the space between laboratories.
Jeremy, can I stop you there? We have a little background noise there. Is that something that you can control on your side?
I don't think you could hear it.
It's like a fan or maybe like a machine. Did the air conditioning, is that an air conditioning unit? That might be what it is. And there, it went away right then. So I don't know. It might just be your microphone, but I think we're good there. Doc, if you want to start again, and if it's not anything you control, don't worry about it. I just didn't know if there was something that came on that you could control, but don't worry about it. Doc, if you'd ask that question again.
Sure. So, Jeremy, can you talk a bit about the growth in your lab which I would imagine is also going to be the growth in the industry from, let's just take the time you started to right now, present day.
Okay, so starting in the cannabis laboratory, the main issue is the lack of standardization across the field. So meaning different laboratories are using different instruments, different specifications, parameters in performing the test. Whereas in these other industries, everyone's doing the same thing. And when I'm referring to like the pharmacy industries and food and drugs, all of those regulations and the standardization is there. It's not as much of a competitive environment as it is in cannabis.
Okay.
Excuse me for just one second.
No.
Okay, so yeah, basically the standardization in the field is lacking. Now what I've seen is more labs are more opening to working together and collaborating on research, doing inter-lab studies, and making sure that we're all on the same page. So I definitely seen that change.
And is that from the state or the organization that oversees labs, a private organization?
No, I would just say some of the leaders in the space, a lot of my colleagues, we're looking to make some change.
Mhm.
Like I mentioned, disrupting the whole pay for play type system in the laboratory space, which inadvertently hurts the consumers. And so just colleagues and different leaders, operators in the space who I've come across, we've shared similar sentiments on how we feel about the industry. And so we've kind of worked together in just trying to show that there is room for collaboration is beneficial.
Now, the term that you use, I think this is the second time you used it, the pay for play.
Yes.
Can you explain what that means?
I mean, firstly, when I talk about my lab, I like to talk about the quality procedures that we put in place, and we're really big on integrity here. Have a lot of experience, people who have worked in different industries with much stricter regulations, and so we've kind of brought up our experience here. Now, with the pay for play system, it's been said and discussed in the industry, in the sphere, that certain labs have certain connections with owners of distros and manufacturers, and whatever that relationship is yielding higher elevated potency numbers.
Are those real numbers?
No. So these products oftentimes say there is a manufacturer, they're working with this laboratory. The owners know each other, they're buds, they're golfing on the weekends, hanging out. And, that manufacturer may tell them, hey, this product needs to be at 29%. And so the laboratory may just give them the 29% or the 30% or whatever they're looking for. It's not until the issue comes when it's a manufacturer, they're doing different formulations on their product to receive a certain percentage or, the desired effects of what they're trying to get. Now, if this lab is giving them inaccurate results on that and they go to use that same formula to do other things and they're not getting the same results, then that's when they get skeptical and they're like, hey, I'm going to give them 3 different samples of all the same thing, label them differently, and give it to them. And then that's when they go to another lab. And they're like,
okay. Now, the consumer doesn't know this. So as far as the consumer knows, it has a higher level of THC. So they probably feel okay with paying a little bit more money.
Right.
But in in reality, there's not that much. There's not anywhere near that much THC in this product. So the public is being cheated.
Correct.
Okay. So now what does the average, consumer, what do they need to look for on a package? Is there some initial, is there an organization's, name on a package that they can say, okay, this is legit? Or is it just the fact that they're going to a legal cannabis store?
That's the thing.
Okay.
Going into these legal dispensaries, the information was labeled on these products should be indeed accurate, but because of that pay for play system, they're unaware. So basically, they're just going in there, getting paid, getting charged exorbitant prices for these higher THC. Now, on the actual package, there's metric, batch numbers. There's often like maybe a link to where you could view the COA, the certificate of analysis online. So sometimes the companies do put that information. It'd be up to the consumer to contact their company and kind of hold them to holding their lab accountable.
Okay, and it also appears to me that maybe even if you go to a legitimate cannabis store, you could get some product that is not really labeled correctly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a potential in that happening. So it's just about getting with, like I said, it's some of these, the manufacturer distros. I mean, some of them are being cheated as well in this system that are not a part of this pay for play. They're just being cheated based on these numbers as well. And so this is really, overall, it's pushing out a lot of these small boutique cultivars.
Okay, right.
And we're getting more into mass production of these flowers, and so that.
Yeah. Do you think that's because the industry is not as regulated as other medicines are?
I just think that it was a large rush of people into the industry.
Oh, okay.
People with, made a lot of money elsewhere, maybe didn't have experience in cannabis, and then shift their whole business and put all their resources into cannabis. And I think with that big rush, there were just a lot of things were happening fast. People that were inexperienced being put in positions that they, couldn't fulfill. So it's a combination of those things.
Yeah.
I was regulations do play a small role in that.
So I think the point we're making is that consumer really needs to be aware. I mean, you don't want to just go out there and say, oh, I'm going to buy some cannabis. So I'm going to get some of that CBD or THC. You really need to know not only what you're buying, but how what you're buying is tested. What's making it the strain that it is, or the strength that it is. You really need to be aware of the product that you're buying.
Right, correct. It's just about, just looking to inform the public, educate them, and get them to really ask questions,
Right.
and hold these brands accountable and get them to hold these testing labs accountable, because despite the issue of the potency, my thing is, once these safety tests are not being performed accurately, and some samples are being deemed as pass, I shouldn't fail. That's where the situation cannot be ignored. We're dealing with the consumer health at this point. So,
right. What's new? I know we met at a conference, so I'm thinking that you went to that conference to find out if there's anything new in the industry, something that you don't know about. But from where you sit as the laboratory director, what's new in cannabis testing?
What's new is the shift from, so first we were learning about CBD. That was a big thing in destigmatizing cannabis, saying, hey, the CBD has, these awesome therapeutic benefits.
Mhm.
Now it's going more towards CBG and CBGA. CBG is thought to be the mother cannabinoid, and from that, a lot of therapeutic and medicinal benefits can come from the research of CBG. So that was definitely one of the main talks and discussions that I was having with people there, because I as well do research with companies and seeing the effects of CBG in treating health ailments, different things like that.
So do you think we're coming away from the THC high and more towards therapeutic medicine out of the cannabis?
I believe that push is just more beneficial because, like I said, the whole stigma of weed, I struggled with it myself. Coming up, my parents looked at cannabis as dope. It was
Yeah.
it wasn't acceptable, and it wasn't until that I had several conversations with them explaining these different benefits. My grandmother, I'm bringing her different topicals to use instead of using, these perks and different things that they're prescribing for pain management. And she's actually having, good effects from using these. And then, even with managing and opening these retail locations in the cannabis space, it still was, hey, you're supposed to be a scientist and you're still selling. It was minimalized to still selling dope, but it wasn't until the money came in and the actual title, laboratory director, and things like that, where they see the true value in it. So I'm in full support of promoting the medicinal benefits more so than just getting high.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now you majored in biology, and I'm thinking of some words of wisdom you would give listeners who perhaps haven't decided what they want to do in college, or maybe even as they're coming out of high school, but they like what they hear from you. What is your advice to them in terms of getting prepared for where you are right now?
My advice would be to lean towards what you're passionate about in that field. I knew that I wanted to be a scientist and that I wanted to work in a laboratory. I also have a strong sense of community and wanting to, help people that look and live in areas that I've lived in, and just educate them and show them that there's other ways that they can contribute, or, the goal is to make money for a lot of us. You can make money and as well as make a difference and contribute to in your community as well. So with me, cannabis was that happy marriage. I feel proud of what I'm doing. And it has a science aspect. That's what keeps it interesting. And that's what really has me dedicated and passionate about what I do. So I would just say definitely, find what you're passionate about. And that definitely comes through trial and error. I failed a lot of times in my journey making it here. I've had a lot of doors closed on me, and I had to really be persistent and innovative even in the way that I'm getting into the industry. So starting with the degree, a degree in biology, chemistry is very important. I have a strong background in chemistry as well. That's definitely helped me achieve where I am now. So chemistry or biochem, those microbiology, those are subjects that if you're looking to get into the laboratory testing or even the manufacturing side, those would be good places to put your time in.
So on that note, Jeremy, would you be open to maybe somebody contacting you and asking for advice from listening to this episode?
Oh yeah, certainly. I could be reached at jeremy@labplex.com. Contact me by email, and then we can set up a time to meet. And that's Jeremy, JEREME @labplex.com.
That's fantastic, because I know I can just imagine that a lot of young people listening, are very amazed at the depth and breadth of knowledge that you have, and they say to themselves, I'd like to do something similar to what Jeremy's doing, but they just don't know how. And in the cannabis space, as you probably know, there are no real defined pathways. There's pathways for everything else. If you want to be a fireman or policeman, a nurse, or some radio personality or something, even actors and actresses, but not so much for cannabis. So it's really, really encouraging to hear you say that. I appreciate that. So go ahead. Anything else you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, there are offering various classes at some of these universities and junior colleges as well. Kind of introductions into the space, learning metric, some of the business behind cannabis. I think that's important to look into as well. Get your feet wet about the entire industry as well.
Fantastic. Well, Jeremy, I want to thank you for being so gracious with your time and sharing it with us. I appreciate it. You just have a wealth of knowledge. And two things. I'm looking forward to visiting your lab, maybe in the coming months. I'll certainly give you a heads up that I'm headed your way. You're in Long Beach?
Yes, that's correct.
Long Beach. Yeah. I'll drive up there and see you again, and maybe get a tour of your lab. And also, I'd like to, hold out a second, guest appearance from you, maybe later on a few months, to see, what new things have developed in your lab.
Yeah, certainly. I'm thoroughly excited to have you here and show you the lab, give you a tour, and yeah, definitely looking to sitting down and speaking with you again.
Okay, fantastic. Well, once again, thank you very much. We really appreciate the time that you've spent explaining what you do, how you got to where you are, and some of the things that listeners might want to watch out for as they go into a cannabis shop, especially if they go into one that's rather shady. They need to be thinking 2 times, 3 times, or 4 times about going in, and especially about purchasing any product from a store that's not licensed. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Leroy.
If you would like to listen to this particular episode and all of the episodes on Cannabis Enlightened, please go to the website and look for cannabisenlightened.com, cannabisenlightened.com. And if you would like to share a comment, question about what we're doing, please feel free to email me at drleroy@cannabisenlightened.com. Thank you very much.